Top 10 battles that changed U.S. history. What if I told you there are a handful of battles that didn't just affect the course of American history, but set off shockwaves that shaped the world as we know it today? From colonial conflicts that won our independence to brutal wars in the 20th century that redefined freedom, power, and global order. These battles aren't just dates in a textbook. They're turning points in the American story. Welcome back to C-Stu. Today, we're exploring the top 10 battles that changed U.S. history forever. Stick around as we dive deep into the blood, strategy, and grit that altered the course of a nation. Battle of Saratoga, September 19, October 7, 1777. We're starting with the Battle of Saratoga, a pivotal moment in the Revolutionary War. Fought in upstate New York, the battle was actually 2 engagements over a few weeks, and the outcome stunned the world. American General Horatio Gates, aided by Benedict Arnold, before he became infamous, led American forces against British General John Burgoyne. The British aimed to split the colonies along the Hudson River, isolating New England. But Saratoga turned into a nightmare for the British, who found themselves outnumbered and trapped. Burgoyne's surrender led to about 1,000 British casualties and even more prisoners. Why was Saratoga so important? It convinced France to ally with the United States, bringing crucial support in money, supplies, and eventually, French troops and a navy. Without this victory, the U.S. may not have won its independence. Siege of Yorktown, September 28, October 19, 1781. Next, we have the Siege of Yorktown, the final major battle of the American Revolution. In 1781, British General Cornwallis fortified himself in Yorktown, Virginia. But George Washington and French General Rochambeau had a plan. They blocked Cornwallis by land while the French Navy cut off any escape by sea. For 3 weeks, artillery barrages pounded British defenses. Cornwallis, with dwindling supplies and no reinforcements, was forced to surrender on October 19, handing over nearly 8,000 British soldiers. Yorktown's significance. It effectively ended British attempts to retain control over the colonies, paving the way for the Treaty of Paris and full American independence. The surrender at Yorktown showed the world that the United States was here to stay. Battle of New Orleans, January 8, 1815. Fast forward to the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. Oddly enough, this battle happened after the War of 1812 had officially ended as the Treaty of Ghent had been signed. However, news hadn't reached the armies in time, and so the fight went on. American forces under General Andrew Jackson faced off against a larger British army. With about 4,500 American troops, including free black soldiers and Choctaw warriors, Jackson defended the city against nearly 10,000 British troops. In the brutal 2-hour fight, the British suffered more than 2,000 casualties, while American losses were under 100. The battle was important not only because it secured New Orleans but because it fostered a new sense of American pride and national identity, propelling Jackson to national fame and setting the stage for his presidency. Battle of Antietam, September 17, 1862. The Battle of Antietam was the bloodiest single day in American history, with over 22,000 killed, wounded, or missing in just a few hours. On September 17, 1862, Union General George McClellan met Confederate General Robert E. Lee in Maryland. This was the first major Civil War battle fought on Northern soil. The fighting was brutal and relentless. 3 main skirmishes erupted in a cornfield, along a sunken road later known as Bloody Lane, and finally at a stone bridge. Though technically a stalemate, Lee's forces retreated, and the Union claimed victory. Antietam was crucial because it gave President Lincoln the confidence to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which redefined the war as a fight against slavery, not just a battle for the Union. This discouraged European powers from supporting the Confederacy and gave the Union a moral high ground. Battle of Gettysburg, July 1–3, 1863. Just months after Antietam came the Battle of Gettysburg, a brutal 3-day engagement in Pennsylvania that would become a turning point in the Civil War. Confederate General Robert E. Lee aimed to invade the North and perhaps force a peace settlement. However, Union forces under General George Meade met him head-on in the small town of Gettysburg. Over 50,000 men were killed, wounded, or captured, making Gettysburg the bloodiest battle of the war. The infamous Pickett's Charge, a last-ditch Confederate assault, ended in disaster. Lee's forces were forced to retreat, marking the end of his northern invasion. Gettysburg was significant because it turned the tide in favor of the Union. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, delivered shortly after, honored those who had fallen and redefined the nation's purpose, reminding Americans of the principle that all men are created equal. Battle of Midway, June 4–7, 1942. Jumping to World War II, we have the Battle of Midway, fought from June 4 to June 7, 1942. This pivotal naval battle saw the U.S. Navy, commanded by Admirals Nimitz, Fletcher, and Spruance, take on a superior Japanese fleet. The U.S., armed with intelligence on Japan's plans, ambushed the Japanese fleet near Midway Atoll. In a stunning blow, 4 Japanese aircraft carriers were destroyed, while the U.S. lost only 1 carrier. Midway was critical because it halted Japanese expansion in the Pacific and gave the U.S. the momentum to go on the offensive. It was a major morale boost and marked the beginning of Japan's steady decline in World War II. D-Day/Battle of Normandy, June 6, August 1944. On June 6, 1944, known as D-Day, Allied forces launched the largest amphibious invasion in history on the beaches of Normandy, France. American, British, and Canadian troops fought to break through fortified German defenses in a brutal campaign. D-Day marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. By opening a Western front, the Allies forced Hitler to split his forces, weakening his military might and allowing the Allies to push through France toward Germany. The victory at Normandy led directly to the liberation of Paris and set the stage for Allied victory in Europe. Battle of the Bulge, December 16, 1944, January 25, 1945. In the winter of 1944, Hitler launched his last major offensive in the Ardennes Forest, known as the Battle of the Bulge. The surprise attack caught American troops off guard, leading to one of the bloodiest battles fought by U.S. forces during World War II. Despite initial German gains, U.S. troops, including the famous 101st Airborne Division, held firm at Bastogne. After weeks of fierce winter fighting and significant casualties, the Allies managed to push the Germans back. This battle was a turning point in the war as it exhausted Germany's remaining resources and crushed its last hopes of victory on the Western Front. Battle of Incheon, September 15–19, 1950. During the Korean War, General Douglas MacArthur led a risky amphibious landing at Incheon, a port city on South Korea's west coast. On September 15, 1950, UN forces launched a surprise attack that recaptured Seoul and cut off North Korean forces. This bold move was a game-changer. It shifted the momentum in favor of UN forces, prevented South Korea from falling, and solidified the U.S. commitment to containing communism, shaping U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War. Tet Offensive, January 30, September 23, 1968. Finally, the Tet Offensive was a series of surprise attacks by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces during the Vietnam War. Although the U.S. and South Vietnamese forces managed to repel the offensive, the scale of the attack shocked the American public. Tet was a turning point because it dramatically shifted U.S. public opinion on the war. Graphic media coverage fueled anti-war sentiment, leading to declining support for the war and eventually contributing to the U.S. decision to withdraw. And there you have it. 10 battles that didn't just win or lose wars, but shaped the United States as we know it. What other battles do you think changed the course of history? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives into history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on CSTU.